Hi guys, I've got a couple of swarm traps here that were hanging up at a farm. I just put them here at a mate's place out in the bush here. Anyway, today I've got to try and put them into some full-size boxes, get them out of these old swarm traps. What they are is they're sort of they've got 4 frames in the top, and then there was just open space down the bottom, so there'll be a bit of free comb in them hanging off the bottom of the frames. So I've got to deal with that, a bit of a sort of a cutout situation. So it's not the ones in the middle, it's just the 2 4-framers either side. This one here, which I think is the stronger one, and then that one on the right there. But it's a pretty cool day here. Like, there are bees coming and going, but they're pretty well tucked up in there. It's a bit of a cold day, so they probably don't really want to be messed with, but I've just got to do it today because I've got the opportunity, and hopefully they don't mind too much. So I'll get them opened up and see what they look like. So I'm going to put them in these poly boxes. So it's just a poly lid. I'll put a feeder in each one. So these are a 9-frame box. So I've got 4 empty frames like this. So there's 4 frames in each of those boxes in the swarm trap. So they'll have 4 active frames, and then might be a bit of comb in there to cut out. So I'll put that in them if I need to. I won't be using that foundation. I have got some drawn comb with me in case I need that. So yeah, that's what I'll be putting them in. So any field bees hopefully can start going in those boxes while I work on this. So the entrance is down here. They've been coming and going in and out the side of the box there a bit too, so feels pretty heavy, so they should have a bit of honey in them, hopefully. Just hopefully they're not too bad to handle. See how we go. I'm about halfway through this first box. It's going pretty well. I've made nice big combs down the bottom. Might be able to see there a little bit of brood. I've just got a little bit of capped brood there. Haven't seen the queen yet, but there's a lot of bees in here. It's pretty hard to find her in all these bees. Yeah, it's just a bit of drone comb towards the back there. It's a bit attached to the sides, but there's nothing really in it, so I'll just scrap that and hopefully get out another one nice big piece of brood comb that I can put in. Put in one of these cutout frames, just do it there like that. And nice cutout frame in there and put it in the hive. This is moving on to the second swarm trap now. Just watch how I do this rubber band. Just go from corner to corner like that on one side. That sort of acts as a net, and you lay it down like that. Once you get a comb out, you can just lay it in that frame. That works out pretty well. Yeah, this second one, nice and strong, just very similar to the last one, although there was no remnants of brood in this one. It's completely broodless, so they was pretty much just in a winter cluster in this one. So yeah, the bees are very sort of docile. They're not active at all really. Pretty cold day to be doing this, but just had to do it on a day when I had the time. The fact that they don't have any brood is probably handy, because I don't have to worry about the chilled brood or anything. So they'd set themselves up nicely for winter, these hives. They had quite a bit of honey in them, a good population of bees. They seem to do really well in this configuration of sort of 4/4. They seem to do well in this shape of a cavity. But hopefully if these two hives are strong enough, they'll go to almond pollination, so I can't take them up there in these swarm traps, so they've got to be transferred into proper equipment. So not knowing where the queen is, I've just got to work along carefully here and take my time. And try not to squash any bees or anything. Try not to stir them up. You can see there, these combs are about perfect size and shape to fit in a frame. It's just a matter of trimming them up a bit and tucking them in the sides. So it's obviously pretty disrupting for the hive to be treated like this. The worst case scenario with this today would be the bees could ball their queen and kill their queen. If you upset them in a certain way, they can sort of blame the queen for that and kill her, which obviously would be a disaster. To be basically a death sentence for a hive in the winter time. especially in this case because they're broodless, so they've got nothing to make a queen out of. So I suppose I'm just hoping that they don't do that. And then another bad scenario would be they could abscond just because they've been upset and put in a new box. They might just decide to leave and go and find a new home, although that'd be a death sentence as well in the winter time. Probably not as likely at this time of year. So just as I do each comb, I just take it over and set it in the hive. I can easily put these boxes back together, but just for the sake of doing this job, I'm just pulling them apart. The important thing, the valuable thing in this scenario is this colony of bees, so the fact that I'm destroying this box doesn't worry me one bit. I can either put it back together or turn it into firewood or just discard it, doesn't matter. The main thing is to get the bees out of it safely. So the bees went into this box last springtime, so they've been in here about 6 months. So all that was in this box was foundation, just 4 frames of foundation. So they've built all this comb and stored all this honey in the last 6 months. But they're sort of feral type bees, of course, so I've made quite a bit of propolis and a bit of sort of burr comb between the top bars of the frames and all that, so which you expect. So here's just a nice big frame of honey, just having a quick look for the queen. Just using the smoke to try and get the bees out of the way. Just need to get the knife through there without cutting them all in half. This section of honey at the back, the honey's really thick and stiff to try and put the knife through because it's cold. Because they haven't got an active brood nest, this hive is a pretty cold hive to work with. There's really no warmth coming out of this hive. It takes a lot of effort for the bees to maintain a hive at brood rearing temperature, so while they're not rearing brood, they just let the temperature drop away to what they need to survive. So I'm just trying to tuck that honey corner into the frame first, and then I can trim the rest of the brood comb just to fit. The valuable thing is to preserve that honey. That's what they need to get through the winter. So I actually didn't receive any stings at all from either of these hives. One of the advantages of working up on the back of the ute here, I'm probably about 10 metres away from the hives. All the field bees, all the mature sort of guard bees are all back at the hives trying to figure out what's going on, whereas I'm over here working away. So as soon as they fly out and fly around, they just go back to their location. They don't hang around and try and defend this box that I'm working on. So yeah, by the time I get to the end, all I'm dealing with is a bunch of young bees in the hive that they're not really defensive. All the field bees are back in the box or on the front of the box, back on the pallet. So as I trim each comb off the bottom, I can take each of the existing combs out of the top. Just have a bit of a look for the queen as I go, but yeah, I didn't spot the queen in this one. I didn't spend a lot of time looking for her. It's just a matter of getting the job done and hoping that she gets through safely. So this is the third cutout frame. And this is the last one I was able to put in a frame. There was a little bit of comb on the other side of this one, but it's all stuck to the wall, which you'll see later. Yeah, so I put these swarm traps at this site in the middle of summer, and since then they had a bit of a stringy bark flow, or stringy bark flowering event, so that's how they were able to store all this honey and breed up a nice winter cluster off the back of the stringy bark event. I was pretty impressed with the population and the strength of these hives. So as I said, there was no trace of brood in this hive. It'd be easy to jump to conclusions and say they're queenless, but I know from experience that it's not unusual for bees to be broodless at this time of year where I live. They tend to go through a period, beginning in April until sometime in June. Maybe the winter solstice, something like that, where they go through a period of broodlessness. It's perfectly normal. Just sort of gives the bees a bit of a break, and then once springtime is approaching, they get back into the brood rearing It's actually a handy thing for a bit of a disease break as well, like if there's any chalk brood or European foul brood, those sort of things. If they go through this broodless period this time of year, those things tend to clear up, and they start again in springtime, and it's a nice healthy little brood nest. So there's just this remaining piece of comb there, but yeah, it's all stuck to the wall. It's sort of brace comb sticking it to the wall, so I won't be able to get that out nicely and put it in a frame. But they've got enough comb material in there now anyway, they don't need this bit as such, but it's just a matter of getting the rest of the bees out of here and potentially the queen still in the box somewhere. There's the last comb out of the top. Not completely packed of honey on that outer side. You sort of expect that against the wall of the box. Sometimes they don't fill it up properly. But still a decent frame of honey. Just try and get the rest of these bees to walk into the hive. I did this with the last one and it worked really well. They all just marched straight in there. I wish I had got a shot of it. Trying to get them in the entrance. You can see there bees fanning at the entrance. There's also bees back in this old box fanning too, so they're all a bit confused, which you can understand. Just putting a bit of smoke in the entrance there. Just try and drive them out of this box. Get them moving towards the new box. See that comb stuck to the wall, it's got quite a bit of pollen in it. Both of these hives had plenty of pollen stored. So it wasn't that they don't have the resources to raise brood, they do, but yeah, that's just their instinct to have a break, go through a period of no brood. I'll just try and get the rest of this comb out of here. There's potential that the queen's still in here somewhere, so particularly that big piece of honey there, I'll get that out of the way because I don't want to, that can drop down in there and squash bees or get bees stuck to it. I'll just get that out of the way. I'm just going to work on removing the rest of that comb there on the side of the box first, and then I'll have to shake these bees out of here, they're just not moving. Yeah, it's the sort of job that I should have done weeks ago, back when the weather was a bit better. But yeah, just didn't get around to it until today. I just hope that the queens survived this event safely, and if she does, I'm sure they'll be fine. Might be able to see this comb that I'm pulling out of there now. It's sort of extra thin, like it was sort of crammed up against the wall without enough space really, and yeah, it's not really thick enough to be brood comb. They're just using it to store the pollen in there. It's a bit of a shame to lose this pollen, but there was plenty of pollen in the other frames too that I put in there, so I'll just have to survive without this stored pollen. I'll be moving these, I'll let them settle down here for a little while, and then I'll move these bees back with my other apiary of bees anyway, and I'll be able to feed these and keep them going, especially when they start raising brood. I'll be able to put pollen patties in them or whatever they need, so it'll be alright. You can see there a bit of a cluster of bees there, and might be able to see bees fanning there too, so they're not keen to get out of this box. This is their home, I suppose, so they're being a bit stubborn there, but I'll just have to tip them out of there, tip them straight into the new box. So the frames of honey I've arranged to the outsides, and then the 3 frames of brood comb towards the centre of the hive. I'm just putting this feeder in here now. At this point in time I'm thinking that I'll just leave it as 7 frames and the feeder, because there's not really much room in there, but like it's a 9 frame box, but the feeder is sort of about 1.5 frames. They're a bit annoying, these feeders. So it becomes awfully tight in there if you've got 8 frames plus the feeder. So this is just 1-to-1 sugar water. Just giving them this. There's a couple of warm days coming up after this, so they'll take this down and they'll just use the energy to repair the comb that I've cut, and just giving them a bit of feed, keeps them in a good mood. So I've got this piece of drawn comb here. It's actually got a little bit of stored syrup in it too. I've just got that wooden stick there. I'll put that in the feeder as a float. These bees have never been fed before, so they're likely to just sort of rush in there into the feeder and possibly drown, so it's important to have a float in there on the surface of the syrup. So I'm just scraping a bit off the shoulders of these frames so I can sit them together nice and tightly. And then I want to try and get this other frame in there. Yeah, I'm really starting to like these polystyrene hives. Some of my best colonies at the moment are in these. I think it's a huge advantage for bees to have the insulation of the polystyrene. So I'm going to work towards that and mainly have polystyrene brood boxes for now, and I can use my 8 frame wooden gear as honey supers on these boxes. You can see there I'm just levering things apart. I'm just able to get this frame in there. It's very tight. It's going to be a nuisance to get this apart again, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Just carefully putting that in there, hoping not to break the box apart at this point. I like to put a piece of plastic film on top of the top bars here. Just makes it easy to come and inspect, do a quick inspection, just lift the lid and see what's going on, see if they need feeder topped up. They do tend to blow away like that, so one trick is just get your hive tool and sit it there. Then you arrange the mat how you want it. Then put your lid on and pull the hive tool out. So that's it, guys. Hope you found that interesting. See you again soon.